If your grocery receipt has been making no sense lately, you are not imagining it. You can walk into the store for a normal basket of food, and somehow the total still feels too high. Not because you failed, not because you forgot how to shop, but because a lot of grocery spending is now built around convenience premiums, packaging tricks, and products that look harmless until you see what they really cost per use. And that is what this video is about. Not panic. Not deprivation. Just a calm look at 12 grocery items smart shoppers often skip or rethink in 2026 so they can protect their budget without feeling like they are giving up real life. Because the truth is, most waste does not happen in one dramatic mistake. It happens in small, ordinary decisions. A prepared item here. A single-serve shortcut there. A product that seemed cheap until you noticed how fast it disappears, spoils, or costs more per pound than the better option sitting right next to it. And those small decisions add up in a way that is hard to feel in the moment. The cart still looks full. The bags still look reasonable. But the receipt tells a different story. So let's take the pressure off right away. The problem is not that people are careless. The problem is that stores are very good at making expensive choices feel normal. Here is the hidden rule behind almost every grocery trap. If a product saves you time, it usually charges you for that time. If a product comes in a smaller package, the unit price often rises. If a product is ready to eat, ready to heat, or ready to grab, you are often paying a convenience tax. And if a product has a short shelf life, even a good price can turn into a loss when part of it ends up in the trash. That is the lens for everything that follows. First, the fresh food traps. Pre-cut fruit is one of the easiest ways to pay extra without really feeling it. A whole melon, a pineapple, or a container of berries looks like one thing on the shelf. The pre-cut version looks easier, cleaner, and more manageable. But you are often paying a lot more for the cutting, the packaging, and the faster spoilage clock that starts the moment the container is opened. The hidden cost is not only the higher price tag, it is the pressure to finish it quickly before it turns. That means pre-cut fruit can look like a healthy choice and still become a poor value if your household does not eat it fast. That matters even more in a week where schedules are crowded. If you are working late, picking up kids, or juggling appointments, a container of cut fruit can seem like the one healthy thing you can grab without thinking. But convenience only helps if it truly gets used. A whole pineapple or melon may take a few extra minutes at home, yet it often stretches farther, stores better, and gives you the option to cut only what you need. That means less waste, fewer emergency snacks, and less pressure to eat around spoilage. A smarter check is simple. Ask whether 1 minute of prep at home is worth the markup. In many cases, the whole fruit lasts longer, costs less, and gives you more flexibility. You do not need to buy less fruit. You just want the version that matches how your household actually eats. Bagged salad is another easy trap because it feels practical. Open the bag, pour it out, done. But salad kits and pre-washed greens can carry a high convenience premium, and they can lose value fast if your week gets busy. A bag of greens that wilts before you use the second half is not really a bargain. It is a waste with a fresh label on it. And because greens are delicate, the timing matters. If the bag gets shoved into the wrong part of the fridge or sits for a few extra days, the quality can fall off quickly. That is why the better move is to buy salad ingredients in forms that stretch across more than one meal. Maybe a head of lettuce, maybe whole carrots, maybe one bunch of greens you can use in eggs, soup, or a side dish later in the week. This is also where meal planning quietly pays off. When a household has ingredients that can wear more than one hat, the food stops being fragile. A spinach bunch can become a salad today and scrambled eggs tomorrow. A whole cucumber can become a snack, a side, or a sandwich topping. The point is not to avoid produce. The point is to avoid paying extra for produce that forces you to hurry. Single-serve fresh fruit cups and snack-size produce packs fall into the same category. They are convenient for lunches and travel, but they often cost far more than the food inside them justifies. If you truly need them for work, school, or caregiving, fine. But if they are just the default, they can quietly drain your budget. One fruit cup is not the story. 20 of them is the story. Now let's move to meat, deli, and ready meals, where the convenience markup gets sharper. Pre-marinated meat looks like a shortcut to dinner. It seems like you are buying the meal and the seasoning all at once. But the store knows that when someone is standing in front of a cooler after a long day, they are not calculating the full cost of the seasoning packet, the water weight, the smaller yield, and the premium attached to the word ready. You may think you are buying chicken. What you're often buying is less chicken for more money, with a flavor coating on top. The smarter check is to compare price per pound and look at the actual weight you are getting. That matters, because two packages can look almost identical from a distance, but one may contain more usable meat and less added liquid. Sometimes plain meat plus your own seasoning gives you better control, more portions, and less surprise at checkout. A little salt, garlic, pepper, citrus, or a basic spice blend can do the same job for a fraction of the premium. If a ready-to-cook version truly saves you from takeout, that can be worth it. But if it is just a habit, you may be paying a lot to avoid a 5-minute step. Deli trays and hot case meals are even more expensive in disguise because they are sold at the exact moment when people are most likely to give themselves permission. You are tired. The family is hungry. The line is moving. The prepared meal starts to feel like relief, not spending. And that is why it is so profitable. Prepared deli food can be useful when you genuinely need it. Nobody needs guilt. But if it becomes a regular answer, it can take an outsized bite out of the weekly budget. The better rule is to think in terms of the next 2 meals, not just the next 20 minutes. If you can build one simple meal at home from basic ingredients, you may protect far more money over time than the convenience feels like in the moment. And there is another layer here that people miss. Deli spending tends to hide in plain sight because it is often not bought as a separate event. It gets folded into the normal grocery run, which makes it feel smaller than it is. But several small, just this once, purchases can become one of the most expensive parts of the trip. A rotisserie chicken, a side dish, a dessert cup, and a prepared salad can turn a grocery stop into a near-restaurant bill. A tray of prepared food may solve today. A plan for tomorrow solves the bill. Now to the pantry. Items that seem cheap until you look closer. Small boxes and premium labels can be very effective at making you feel like you found something special. But many of those products are just ordinary food sold in smaller amounts with a polished package. Crackers, cereal, pasta, cookies, even rice and grains can shift from reasonable to expensive the moment the portion shrinks or the branding gets fancier. The easiest trap here is the shelf tag illusion. 2 boxes sit next to each other. One is visually nicer, one seems like a better deal because the sticker price is lower. But the real question is not what the box costs. It is what you are paying per ounce, per serving, or per usable meal. That is why smart shoppers read the unit price first. It cuts through the design. It cuts through the large logo. It cuts through the suggestion that a smaller box is somehow the smarter buy just because it looks tidy on the shelf. This is especially important when the store rearranges products or introduces a new version that is really just a different package size. If the ounce price jumped, the marketing does not matter. The math does. Snack packs and single portions are another quiet drain. They are sold as control, portioning, or convenience. And sometimes those things are useful. But very often, single-serve packaging is simply a way to charge more for less food. If a household actually needs pre-portioned snacks for school bags, work lunch, or medical reasons, that is a valid use. But if you are buying them because they are there, you may be paying a convenience tax on top of a packaging tax. The same food in a larger family-size bag or a less flashy package often gives you far more value. This is one of those places where the store understands human behavior very well. Small portions feel safer when you're trying to avoid overdoing it. But the cost of safety can be steep if every snack comes individually wrapped. A better approach is to buy a larger container and portion it at home when that makes sense. That gives you control without paying the premium for factory portioning. Store brands deserve a serious mention here too. A lot of shoppers were trained to assume the name brand must be better. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is not. In many everyday categories, the store brand gives you the same basic function with less marketing overhead. The right mindset is not brand loyalty, it is usefulness. If the product does the job, tastes acceptable, and gets used fully, that is the better buy. Now let's talk about drinks, which are one of the easiest places to leak money without really noticing. Bottled water, juice drinks, energy drinks, specialty coffees, and ready-made cold beverages all have one thing in common. They are very good at turning a few cents of ingredients into several dollars of convenience. And because beverages disappear quickly, they rarely trigger the same resistance people feel when buying actual food. That is part of the trap. A bottle of drink is easy to justify. It feels small. It feels refreshing. It feels like a treat or a practical grab-and-go item. But the more often it shows up in the cart, the more it works like a silent subscription. The hidden cost is not only the price, it is the pattern. If your household regularly buys drinks that could be made, mixed, brewed, or poured at home, you may be spending a lot for very little nutritional or practical return. Even juices and so-called wellness drinks can be expensive once you compare them to plain alternatives. The smarter move is not to ban drinks. It is to decide which drinks are worth the convenience and which are just habit. A refillable bottle, a pitcher at home, a coffee routine that starts before the store, or a simple bulk purchase can give you more control. You are not giving up comfort. You are stopping the store from charging you every time you want a sip. And timing matters here too. Drinks are often bought when people are in motion, not when they are thinking. A quick stop on the way to work, a checkout lane purchase after a long trip through the store, a beverage grabbed because everyone is tired and thirsty. Those moments are exactly why drinks are such efficient profit centers for retailers. If you pause and build a habit around home refill options, you remove one of the easiest leaks in the budget. Now for the freezer aisle, where packaging can be especially misleading. Frozen meals often look efficient. They promise dinner in minutes. And for a busy household, that can be genuinely useful. But some frozen meals are priced like full meals while functioning more like expensive snacks. The front of the box can make the meal look hearty. The actual serving size can tell a very different story. This is why the nutrition panel matters as much as the marketing. Check how many servings are in the box. Check whether the portion size would actually satisfy one person. Check whether you would still need bread, vegetables, or another side to make it a real meal. If the answer is yes, the true price may be much higher than the shelf tag suggests. Some frozen items are worth it. No one is saying frozen food is bad. In fact, frozen vegetables and some basic frozen ingredients can be excellent value. The trap is not the freezer itself. The trap is the box that sells speed while quietly shrinking the amount of actual food you receive. A useful question here is simple. Is this a convenience item or a complete value? If it needs to be stretched, upgraded, or doubled before it becomes dinner, it may not be the bargain it first appears to be. Frozen pizza, tiny entrees, and novelty boxes can be especially persuasive because they promise a whole experience in one purchase. But if the meal leaves people still hungry, the low shelf price stops being low very quickly. Now let's move to household add-ons because the grocery trip is no longer just food. Paper towels, napkins, trash bags, dish soap, cleaning sprays, toiletries, and all the little extras near the checkout can inflate the total fast. These are often necessary purchases, but they are also where impulse pricing thrives. The end cap display is designed to catch the tired shopper. The checkout rack is designed to catch the distracted shopper. The travel-size shelf is designed to catch the urgent shopper. And urgency is expensive. Travel-size items are especially poor value unless you truly need them for a trip or emergency. They look cheap because the front number is low, but the unit price is often terrible. Same with emergency buys made at the last minute because the household ran out. When you pay retail panic pricing, the store wins twice. Once on the item, once on the rush. The better habit is to keep a simple household list. Not a giant stockpile. Just a basic awareness of what you actually use before it runs out. A small amount of planning protects you from the most expensive aisle in the store. The aisle you did not mean to visit. And there is a final wrinkle worth mentioning. Household goods often get tossed into the grocery cart because it feels efficient to buy everything in one stop. But not every one-stop trip is a savings. If the add-on items are overpriced, the convenience of combining errands can disappear. Sometimes the smartest grocery decision is not to buy the first replacement you see. It is to know what can wait until a better price or a better package size shows up. And that brings us to a short reset, because this is the point where a lot of people realize the pattern is bigger than one product. Take a breath and remember the 3 checks that change everything. First, unit price. That is the real cost per ounce, per pound, per count, or per serving. Not the big number on the front, the real number that tells you what you are actually paying. Second, shelf life. A good price on food that spoils before you use it is not a good price. It is a delayed loss. Third, real household use. Ask whether this item solves a true need in your life or just a convenience moment in the store. If you remember those 3 checks, you can walk through almost any grocery aisle with more confidence. Let's use that framework to talk about what smart shoppers buy instead. Whole foods often stretch further than prepared foods. Family-size basics often cost less per use than smaller packages. Flexible ingredients like rice, oats, eggs, beans, potatoes, onions, carrots, and plain yogurt can turn into many meals instead of one expensive moment. That is the real power move, not extreme restriction. Flexibility. When a household has a few ingredients that can become breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a side dish, the store has a harder time controlling the budget with convenience markup. Store brands are often worth a careful try in these categories too. A basic pantry staple does not need a luxury label to be useful. If the quality is acceptable and the item gets used, that is a win. And here is the deeper shift. The best buy is not always the cheapest price tag. The best buy is the item that gets fully used. That is why planned shopping matters more than random shopping. A carton of eggs that becomes several meals is often better value than a fancy snack that disappears in one sitting. A bag of dry beans or rice is not exciting, but it gives your household options. A loaf of bread that gets frozen and used well may beat the impulse bakery item that goes stale in 2 days. Now, one thing people often miss is that the store is not just selling food. It is selling mood. A bright package can create the feeling that you are treating yourself. A new flavor can create the feeling that you are being smart or current. A product near the checkout can create the feeling that it is too small to matter. But when all those small things add up, they absolutely matter. That is why the receipt check matters before you leave the store. You do not need to study every line in a dramatic way. Just look for the items that do not match your plan. The convenience purchase you did not intend. The snack packs. The extra drink. The deli meal. The expensive shortcut that showed up because you were rushed. This is not about shame. It is about learning where the money actually went so the next trip is calmer. If you spot 1 or 2 items that do not belong, you have already improved the next shop. You are training your attention, not punishing yourself. And attention is a real financial skill. The more you practice it, the less power impulse has over your cart. Here is the bigger pattern behind all 12 of these items. The store makes money when you pay extra for speed, presentation, portioning, urgency, and emotional convenience. You protect your budget when you slow down just enough to ask 3 questions. What is the unit price? How long will it last? Will my household actually use it fully? That is the system. And once you see it, grocery shopping stops feeling like a series of random disappointments. It becomes a set of decisions you can handle. So before your next trip, keep the checklist simple. Bring a short list, check the unit price, skip anything that adds convenience without adding real value. Watch for tiny portions, fast spoilage, and checkout temptation. Choose the version of the item that matches how your household actually lives, not how the store wants the trip to feel. That is how you protect your money without feeling deprived. Not by buying less life, by buying with more attention. If this helped you see grocery spending more clearly, stay with the channel. The next report will keep breaking down the places where ordinary shoppers lose money quietly and how to take that control back one aisle at a time.